South African Airways. Now, in May, the Competition Commission recommended the tribunal approve a 51% disposal of SAA shares to Takatso, provided that certain conditions are met. One of the conditions was for the minority partners in the consortium to be removed to avoid decreasing competition in the domestic passenger market. SABC News senior economics reporter Nompumelelo Siziba is covering this case and joins us live. A very good afternoon to Nompumelelo. Take us through the latest.
Very good afternoon. Thanks very much, Nzinga. Yes, well, as you've outlined in the introduction, what's being heard here at the Competition Tribunal is that issue of the Competition Commission approving the Takatso SAA takeover. Basically, like you said, Takatso taking 51% of SAA and the DPE, the Department of Public Enterprises, maintaining a 49% stake in the airline. Now, the tribunal panel is listening intently to the arguments that have been put forward by the Commission, but there does appear to be a problem in the sense that the original deal comprised of Takatso, which is a consortium which includes Harith, as well as Cyrenex, and also a party by the name of Global Aviation Services. Now, these parties were going to contribute technical services by way of actually assisting with, provision of aircraft and other technical operational issues. But now, of course, the Competition Commission has said that those minority shareholders should actually divest because they believe that there's a conflict of interest in the sense that with the cross-directorships that would take place, with those owners being able to sit on the board of Takatso, that means that they would get an insight into what's happening at SAA and therefore have sensitive competitive information that would enable them to actually get ahead in running Lift, for example, because Cyrenex is involved in running the airline called Lift, which is a domestic carrier. So this is an area that is being debated constantly. But now Takatso's lawyers have said here at the tribunal that the fact that Cyrenex and the other party, Global Aviation, may not be part of the consortium anymore because that's a stipulation made by the Competition Commission, that won't really affect the deal because they say the most important thing is that Harith stays in play and maybe will be the total owner or total player in the Takatso situation. It won't be a consortium anymore. It will just be Harith, but they'll be providing the much needed funds to ensure that SAA is able to expand. Now, one of the parties that is yet to give their contributions is a South African Cabin Crew Association. You'll remember during the business rescue process, SAA lost some 3,700 jobs, which of course had massive social ramifications. And the SA Cabin Crew Association are here to give their representations. I'm going to speak to them very briefly to find out what it is that we can expect them to say a little bit later. Thank you very much. I'm joined now by Mr. Advocate Christopher Shabangu. He's the president of SACA. Thank you very much for joining us. I've tried to give an outline very briefly of some of the issues here, but for you, what are the outstanding issues around this deal, and what is it that you as Labour will want to contribute to the proceedings?
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your viewers. I think maybe I should start by saying that from the start, we've always had a problem with the deal itself. Or maybe put it this way, we do want an equity partner at South African Airways. It's important that we have one. However, when it comes to this particular deal, we've always had a problem because it was never fully disclosed to us. We never knew the details of the whole deal as to what is going to be happening, who's going to be the strategic partner. Now, when we get here today, we get to find out that there were bids that were actually issued by the Department of Labor, by the DPE, and now one of those, they chose one of those bidders, which is now Takatso, which was made up of these two minority companies that were making up Takatso. Now, today, as we sit here, it is now clear to us we're no longer sitting with a company that was actually chosen for the purpose of providing support financially and strategically to South African Airways. What we're sitting with today, which is, those are the submissions that we're going to be making today. What we're sitting with today, we're sitting with a totally different company, which we're not so sure what are the details, what are they bringing into the table. I must also point out that at the beginning of the process, as far as we know, that there were many, actually the lawyers from the DPE have submitted and said that there were many other suitable players to this. Now, some of which we know, Ethiopian Airlines was there. As far as we know, they could have provided the support. Now today, just to make this short, today what we are now sitting with is that we're sitting with a company which we are made to be unsure even more now, because we're sitting with a different company, Takatso only, without their strategic partners that are supposed to take, to play a role in what is supposed to be happening at South Africa. So our submissions today basically are that we want a strategic partner that is going to be able to carry the airline and move the airline grow the airline. And we do not believe, therefore, that Takatso on their own, now having gotten rid of their strategic partner, of which they were chosen for, they're going to be able to run that airline as needed.
Thanks very much, Advocate Christopher. We're going to leave it there because we are running out of time. There is a lot happening in this particular case, as we've outlined. And what's very interesting, of course, is this whole issue about Cyrenix and global aviation. This is what has been presented to the tribunal. And the tribunal is really interrogating what they're faced with, because now they're being told, essentially, that the two parties are willing to divest from the consortium. And so they're asking, what is it that we're looking at? Are we looking at Harith on its own under Takatso? And if so, it means that we're not really looking at the same case that we were presented with. But of course, the arguments that are being put forward is that a lot has changed. South African Airways, at the time of the memorandum of understanding that was put forward by Takatso, was still in business rescue. And the assumption was that it would need help to actually get started. But then after some time in 2021, it took to the skies again, and so it was a different entity. It was no longer in business rescue. And we understand recently from financial reports that SAA is now actually a profitable airline, but of course we know it's a much more slimmed down airline with less aircraft, less routes, and 3,700 less employees to have to pay for or contend with. So it's a very different entity. But now it's going to be interesting to see how the tribunal rules. One would think that they would automatically agree with the recommendation of the Competition Commission, but that doesn't look likely at this stage. It's going to get interesting this afternoon because we do have the former DG of the Department of Public Enterprises who's also going to be making his own contributions here. We understand that he was fired by the DPE, but he has told colleagues that he can only be fired by the President of the Republic. He's going to be making representations here, and we'll be reflecting on those a little bit later. Back to you in studio, Nzinga.
No one better to cover that than one of the SABC News' economic desk best and brightest, Nompumelelo Siziba. She's going to be following that story and updating us a little bit later on.